I was stalking a coyote, but it wasn't the only one stalking me. Blood on fresh snow told Ethan Walsh he was close. 3 days of hunting in Montana's unforgiving November wilderness had yielded nothing but frostbitten fingertips and dwindling supplies. His uncle's cattle ranch had lost 6 calves this season, 3 to the silver-tipped coyote locals called Ghost. The temperature dropped to 15 below as daylight faded. Ethan's breath crystallized before his face while he examined the crimson spatter. Rabbit blood, not cattle. He cursed under his breath. Ghost was hunting, but not livestock. Shouldering his Remington 700, Ethan pushed deeper into the pines. Wind cut through his layers, the cold penetrating to his bones. He'd planned a day hunt, not an extended tracking mission, and his supplies reflected that miscalculation. 1 protein bar remained in his pocket. His canteen held ice more than water. Ghost tracks betrayed unusual intelligence. The coyote doubled back, crossed icy streams, and walked fallen logs, tactics to break the scent trail. Twice today, Ethan had spotted the distinctive silver-tipped tail, only to have the predator vanish like morning mist. Clever bastard, Ethan muttered, stamping his feet to maintain circulation. Night approached rapidly. 18 miles from his truck, Ethan faced a decision. Risk hypothermia pushing forward, or make camp with minimal gear. The Ranchers Association bounty of $500 drove him onward, past wisdom's boundaries. An hour later, shivering violently, he admitted defeat. With numbed fingers, he gathered pine boughs for insulation and kindling for fire. The lighter's flame wavered in his trembling hands, catching the 3rd attempt. The small blaze provided illusion of safety, more than actual warmth. Sleep came in fragments, broken by muscle spasms and distant howls. Dreams of pursuit blended with reality. Once, waking suddenly, Ethan swore he saw eyes reflecting firelight from the darkness. Amber orbs observing with calculated intelligence. Dawn brought clarity and stiffness. Frost coated his beard. His left boot had frozen to the ground where melted snow had pooled. Rising painfully, Ethan saw fresh tracks circling his camp. Ghost had studied him while he slept. Following the new trail, Ethan discovered something peculiar. Ghost wasn't running. The tracks maintained consistent spacing, unhurried. Not the pattern of prey, but of assessment. By midday, stumbling from exhaustion and hunger, Ethan spotted movement on a ridge. Ghost standing in plain view, silver tail catching sunlight. Their eyes met across the distance. The coyote held his gaze with unnerving steadiness before deliberately turning. Looking back once, as if beckoning, then disappearing over the ridgeline. The encounter rattled Ethan more than any conventional hunting experience. This wasn't prey behaving like prey. This was something else entirely. Against all hunter's instinct, Ethan felt himself drawn forward, following rather than pursuing. His frozen fingers fumbled with his rifle's safety. Had he managed a clear shot, would he have taken it? The question troubled him as he climbed toward where Ghost had stood. Cresting the ridge, Ethan found not just tracks, but a pattern. Circular routes all returning to one direction. Ghost wasn't evading. He was leading. Claire Blackwood's fingers had long gone numb inside her thermal gloves. 18 months of tracking Montana's coyote populations had taught her that discomfort was the price of discovery. Her observation blind, little more than a camouflage tent perched on an exposed hillside, offered minimal protection against the brutal November wind. Through her spotting scope, she watched the hunter moving through the valley below. Unlike the weekend warriors who crashed through the wilderness during hunting season, this one moved with purpose and skill that triggered both professional admiration and personal alarm. "Don't you dare find him," she whispered, adjusting the focus to track the man's methodical progress. Ghost wasn't just another research subject. The silver-tipped alpha represented the culmination of her doctoral work on adaptive predator intelligence. 3 generations of data, countless hours of observation, all centered on proving these animals deserve protection rather than eradication. A sudden gust rocked her blind, nearly toppling her equipment. Claire lunged to steady her laptop as it slid toward the tent's edge. The movement sent pain shooting through her right leg, a reminder of yesterday's fall on ice-slicked rocks while tracking Ghost's mate. The deep purple bruise stretched from knee to hip, limiting her mobility precisely when she needed it most. The data on her screen troubled her more than her injury. Ghost Pack had numbered 12 in summer. Now she counted only 5. The pattern of disappearances didn't match natural predation or territorial disputes. Something, or someone, was systematically removing coyotes from these hills. Movement caught her eye. Ghost himself, visible briefly on a distant ridge. The coyote wasn't running from the hunter, but moving parallel, almost as if observing him. Behavior outside normal patterns. Claire scrambled to document it, her scientific detachment warring with concern. A sharp crack split the air, not a rifle shot, but the sound of splintering wood. Before Claire could react, the blind support pole gave way beneath accumulated ice. Canvas collapsed around her, equipment crashing down. Pain exploded in her temple as the heavy spotting scope struck her head. Dazed, bleeding, Claire fought free of the tangled material. Blood trickled into her left eye. Her satellite phone lay crushed beneath the fallen frame. The temperature was dropping rapidly, her supplies scattered across snow-covered ground. Concussion symptoms clouded her thoughts. Nausea, blurred vision, disorientation. Professional training overrode panic. Pressure on the head wound first. Assessment of surroundings second. The hunter represented both potential danger and possible salvation. The nearest ranger station lay 15 miles north, an impossible journey in her condition. As darkness approached, Claire made her decision. Gathering essential supplies into her pack, she began moving downslope toward the hunter's last position. Each step sent pain radiating through her injured leg. Blood continued seeping through the makeshift bandage on her temple. A howl echoed across the valley. Ghost's distinctive call. Claire paused, listening. Not an ordinary territorial vocalization. Something different, almost a warning. In 18 months, she'd never heard this particular cadence. Through the gathering gloom, she spotted unusual tracks cutting across her path. Too large for coyote, too deliberate for deer. A third presence in these woods, moving with purpose toward both the hunter and Ghost. Claire's scientific curiosity yielded to survival instinct. She needed to reach the hunter before this unknown entity found them all. Raymond Voss wiped blood from his custom tranquilizer rifle, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The Coyote pup he'd just darted would fetch $3,000 from a private collector in Qatar if it survived transport. Not ghost, but perhaps useful as bait. The pup's unconscious form lay bundled in his pack, still warm, the 6th acquisition this month. Voss checked his GPS coordinates against the worn topographical map. Ghost's territory spanned the northeastern quadrant, beyond the ridge where he'd spotted the hunter earlier. Amateur competition was an annoyance, but occasionally useful. Hunters flushed prey into his waiting traps. His satellite phone vibrated. A message from his Dubai client offering $40,000 for Ghost, alive and unharmed. The distinctive silver-tipped coyote had gained almost mythical status in certain circles. Collectors coveted unique specimens above all else. Voss's face, weathered by 20 years of wilderness exploitation, remained expressionless as he calculated risks against rewards. The approaching storm system would ground extraction helicopters for days. Wildlife authorities had increased patrols following anonymous tips about poaching. Someone was watching these woods. A branch snapped somewhere to his left. Voss froze, instantly alert. Not the clumsy movement of a hunter, but the deliberate step of someone trying to move silently. He melted into the shadows behind a granite outcropping, rifle ready. Through specialized night vision binoculars, he observed a woman moving awkwardly downslope, favoring her right leg. Blood matted her hair beneath a hasty bandage. Researcher, not enforcement. He'd observed her blind on previous excursions, always maintaining distance from scientists and their inconvenient documentation. Her presence complicated matters. Researchers meant cameras, data, evidence. The lucrative Dubai contract demanded discretion above all else. The temperature plummeted as night claimed the forest. Frozen breath crystallized in Voss's beard as he shadowed the injured woman from 100 yards back. She moved with clear purpose toward the hunter's last known position. A confluence of witnesses. Inconvenient. The drugged pup in his pack whimpered softly, beginning to wake. Voss administered another half-dose of sedative, irritation mounting. The storm front approached faster than forecast, heavy clouds obliterating starlight. His extraction point lay 7 miles northeast, a punishing journey in rapidly deteriorating conditions. Snowflakes began to fall, light at first, then in thickening sheets that reduced visibility to meters. Voss's experienced eye recognized the developing blizzard. 3 days minimum before conditions would permit evacuation. 3 days to secure Ghost, eliminate complications, and reach extraction. A howl pierced the swirling snow, Ghost calling from the ridgeline above. Closer than expected. The distinctive vocalization pattern identified the alpha male unmistakably. Voss shouldered his pack and changed course, moving upslope through deepening snow. His modified crampons bit into ice-crusted terrain, providing traction where normal boots would slip. Blood spotted the snow near a fallen log, not animal, but human. The researcher's trail. Her injury was worse than he'd assessed initially. Survival unlikely without intervention. Another set of tracks intersected hers. The hunter, moving with purpose rather than recreational pursuit. 2 witnesses converging, both following Ghost's trail. Voss checked his specialized dart magazines, paralytic agents for humans, sedatives for the target animal. His client specified live capture, but left no restrictions regarding obstacles. 40,000 justified certain measures. The howl came again as darkness completed its descent. Not from the ridge this time, but behind him. Ghost was circling, tracking all three humans through his territory. The realization triggered something unfamiliar in Voss's calculated mind. Unease. For the first time in 20 years, Raymond Voss felt like prey rather than predator. Ethan's stomach cramped with hunger as he studied ghost tracks in the deepening snow. 26 hours without food had dulled his senses, slowed his reactions. The $500 bounty seemed increasingly irrelevant against the price his body was paying. Blood smeared his left palm, where his knife had slipped while cutting branches for an emergency shelter. The wound throbbed beneath crude bandaging, each heartbeat sending fresh pain up his arm. Infection was a certainty without proper treatment. Yet ghost tracks held him transfixed. The Coyote wasn't running random evasive patterns, but executing deliberate loops, always returning to a southeastern trajectory. Not the behavior of hunted prey, but of a creature with purpose. "What are you showing me?" Ethan muttered, his voice carried away by intensifying wind. The blizzard that had threatened all day now descended in earnest. Visibility dropped to 20 yards, then 10. Temperature plummeted to 20 below. Frostbite became an imminent threat rather than abstract danger. As Ethan gathered pine boughs for insulation, movement flickered at his peripheral vision. He spun, rifle raised despite numbed fingers. Ghost stood 30 yards away, silver tail distinct against white terrain. The Coyote's amber eyes locked with Ethan's. No fear registered in that steady gaze, only assessment, and something Ethan's rational mind refused to acknowledge. Intelligence with intent. The rifle's crosshairs settled on Ghost's chest. A clean shot, even in deteriorating conditions. $500 and mission accomplished. Ethan's finger rested on the trigger, yet remained motionless. Something profound transpired in that silent exchange. Predator recognizing predator across species boundaries. Ghost turned deliberately, took 3 steps southeast, then looked back at Ethan with unmistakable expectation. "You want me to follow," Ethan whispered, lowering his rifle. The decision defied logic, contradicted his purpose. Yet as Ghost disappeared into swirling snow, Ethan shouldered his pack and followed, abandoning his half-built shelter. An hour later, disoriented in whiteout conditions, Ethan stumbled over something partly buried in snow. A backpack, not his own. Human presence. Inside he found a satellite phone with shattered screen, emergency rations, and a journal filled with detailed observations of Coyote behavior. Scientific notations, GPS coordinates, pack hierarchies. Blood stained the pack shoulder strap. Recent. Someone injured, moving through lethal conditions. As if summoned by this realization, a figure materialized from the blizzard. A woman limping heavily, blood frozen in her hair. "The silver-tipped alpha," she gasped through blue-tinged lips. "Are you tracking him too?" Before Ethan could respond, a third presence emerged from white oblivion. A man, rifle raised, eyes calculating through specialized goggles. "Both of you down." Hands visible. The stranger commanded, voice flat as the frozen landscape. Ethan recognized the modified rifle, not standard hunting equipment, but a specialized dart gun used by wildlife traffickers. Understanding crystallized. The coyote wasn't leading him randomly, but toward this confrontation. The wounded woman swayed, consciousness failing. "He's taking Ghost's pack," she managed before collapsing into blood-stained snow. A howl cut through the storm, close, deliberate, almost triumphant. Ghost, watching from darkness beyond human perception. 3 humans converged in lethal weather, each following different facets of the same intelligence. The hunter becoming witness, the observer becoming victim, the predator becoming prey. Encircling them all, Ghost orchestrated a convergence beyond human understanding. "Don't move," Voss repeated, the tranquilizer rifle unwavering despite the howling wind. Snow accumulated on his specialized thermal gear, designed for Arctic conditions, while standard hunting attire left Ethan shivering uncontrollably. Claire lay crumpled in blood-stained snow, consciousness flickering. Her concussion symptoms had worsened during her desperate trek to intercept the hunter. Now death approached, not from exposure, but from the calculated gaze behind Voss's rifle. "The coyote," Voss said flatly. "The silver-tipped one." "Where?" Ethan's mind raced despite hypothermia's creeping fog. The stranger's gear marked him as professional, not recreational. The modified rifle confirmed worse: wildlife trafficking, not hunting. "Don't know what you mean," Ethan stalled, positioning himself between Voss and Claire's vulnerable form. His own rifle lay useless in snow, too distant to reach before a dart found its mark. Movement caught Ethan's peripheral vision. Ghost, materializing from swirling white, then vanishing again, leading them somewhere. The pattern suddenly clarified in Ethan's numbed mind. "He's just over that ridge," Ethan lied, pointing northwest, opposite Ghost's actual position. "Denning in a rock formation." Voss's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Move, both of you. That direction." He gestured southeast with his rifle barrel, precisely where Ghost had been guiding Ethan all along. Claire stirred, murmuring incoherently as Ethan helped her rise. Blood had frozen in her hair, her skin dangerously pale beneath the wound. "Ghost's pack," she whispered. "He's been taking them." They stumbled forward through knee-deep snow, Voss following 10 paces behind. Each step cost Claire visible agony. Ethan supported her weight, buying time, watching for opportunities. His hunting knife remained sheathed at his hip, accessible but useless against a ranged weapon. The storm's intensity peaked, visibility reduced to arm's length. Yet Ghost's tracks remained visible, deliberate breadcrumbs through white oblivion. The landscape dropped suddenly, a hidden valley sheltered from direct wind. As they descended, shapes emerged through diminished snowfall. Canvas structures, metal cages, a campsite built for extended operation. "My God," Claire breathed, momentarily lucid. Trafficking operation. 6 cages contained coyotes, thin, frightened, but alive. In the smallest cage lay a sedated pup, barely breathing. Not random predator control, but systematic collection. Voss gestured toward a larger cage, empty with reinforced walls. "The silver-tipped alpha goes there. 40,000 from Dubai. You two become unfortunate victims of wilderness exposure." A sound cut through the wind. Not ghost howl, but something mechanical, Distant but approaching. Helicopter. Not rescue, but extraction. Early arrival, Voss noted, satisfaction coloring his tone. Weather window opened sooner than forecast. Claire collapsed again, blood seeping through her makeshift bandage. Ethan knelt beside her, seemingly concerned, but actually gathering snow in his wounded palm. The pain cleared his mind momentarily. Ghost appeared on the valley's rim, silver tail catching weak light. Not alone this time. 4 adult coyotes flanked him in perfect formation. Voss tracked the alpha with his rifle, finger tensing on the trigger. Ethan's hand shot upward, packed snow striking Voss's eyes with desperate force. The trafficker fired blindly, dart whistling harmlessly past. Ghost charged down the slope, pack following in coordinated attack. Not random aggression, but tactical movement, refined through generations of survival. The convergence Ghost had engineered unfolded with savage precision. Predator, prey, and witness, roles dissolved in wilderness justice as the helicopter's distant thumping heralded not rescue, but reckoning. Chaos erupted in the hidden valley. Ghost's pack struck with coordinated precision, not attacking directly, but circling, darting, creating confusion. Voss fired repeatedly, darts embedding in snow where coyotes had been moments before. Ethan seized the opportunity, tackling Voss with remaining strength. Both men crashed into frozen earth, the tranquilizer rifle skittering across ice. Claire dragged herself toward the cages, despite blood trailing behind her, desperate to free the captured coyotes. The helicopter sound grew louder, rotors beating against the storm. Not legitimate extraction, but black market transport. No questions asked, no witnesses permitted. Voss's training showed in his methodical violence. A knife appeared in his hand, slashing toward Ethan's throat with practiced efficiency. Ethan barely deflected the blade, earning a deep gash across his forearm that immediately pumped bright arterial blood onto pristine snow. Ghost darted between the struggling men, seizing Voss's pack in powerful jaws. The coyote retreated, dragging the equipment into darkness beyond the camp. Inside, documentation, client contacts, trafficking network details. "Kill them all!" Voss screamed, momentarily distracted. The hesitation cost him as Ethan landed a desperate blow, crushing the trafficker's nose. Claire reached the cages, fingers numb as she struggled with complex locks. Her vision doubled from concussion, each movement sending fresh pain radiating from her temple. The pup's cage opened first, the small creature barely responsive from sedation. Voss regained advantage, pinning Ethan against frozen ground. The knife rose again, descending with killing intent. At the last instant, Ghost's jaws closed on Voss's wrist, bone cracking audibly beneath powerful pressure. The trafficker howled, primal sound echoing across the valley. Blood poured from his mangled wrist as he scrambled backward, survival instinct overriding commercial interest. The helicopter crested the valley's rim, spotlight cutting through diminished snowfall. Voss lurched toward the light, desperation evident in his awkward gait. Claire collapsed beside the partially freed coyotes, consciousness finally surrendering to blood loss and hypothermia. Ethan's wound pumped life onto unblemished terrain, each heartbeat weakening as critical pressure dropped. Ghost stood between the fallen humans and approaching helicopter, silver tail raised like a banner. The pack gathered behind their alpha, forming living barrier against extraction. Understanding penetrated Ethan's fading consciousness. Ghost had engineered this convergence, not for revenge, but justice. The Coyote had recognized Ethan as potential ally, rather than enemy, leading him methodically to this moment. With failing strength, Ethan reached for his hunting pack, extracting emergency flares. The first shot skyward, crimson brilliance painting snow-laden pines with urgency. The helicopter wavered, spotlight sweeping nervously across the scene below. Illegal operators witnessing unexpected complications. Voss reached the valley's edge, waving his uninjured arm toward the hovering aircraft. Behind him, Ghost followed silently, amber eyes reflecting determination honed through generations of survival. The helicopter banked suddenly, abandoning their colleague to wilderness justice. Commercial calculation. One operative expendable against exposure risk. Ghost's howl rose in triumph as Voss realized his abandonment. The trafficker turned, facing the Coyote across blood-stained snow. Predator confronting predator, roles irrevocably reversed. Ethan fired the second flare horizontally, directly at the retreating helicopter. The aircraft jerked sideways, pilot startled by unexpected trajectory. Distant engine sounds approached from the north. Not helicopter, but snowmobiles. Rangers responding to Claire's emergency beacon, activated hours earlier despite damaged equipment. As consciousness faded, Ethan witnessed Ghost standing over Voss's cowering form. Not attacking, but holding him in place until human justice arrived. The wilderness had rendered its verdict through tooth and claw, blood and snow. 3 weeks later, Ethan stood at his uncle's property line, binoculars trained on distant hills. His arm throbbed beneath fresh bandages, the severed artery successfully repaired during emergency surgery. Beside him, Claire leaned on a walking stick, her concussion symptoms finally diminishing after extended hospital observation. "They found the other operation sites," she said, passing him a folder containing ranger reports. 17 animals recovered alive. Voss's network operated across 5 states, shipping endangered predators globally. Ethan nodded, attention fixed on movement along the forest's edge. "Your research foundation got the grant." "Full funding for 5 years," Claire confirmed. "The university's calling it the Ghost Initiative. Predator intelligence and territorial cooperation studies. Your testimony made the difference." Federal agents had been skeptical of their account until discovering Voss's documentation. The trafficker now faced 20-year sentences across multiple jurisdictions. His Dubai client, identified through recovered communications, faced international sanctions. "Your uncle's agreeing to the test program?" Claire asked, gesturing towards the cattle pastures. 3 ranchers signed on. "No predator control for 18 months, while we try your deterrent methods." Ethan lowered the binoculars, turning toward her. The association vote was closer than you'd like, 16 to 14. Winter had released its grip on Montana, April bringing tentative green to south-facing slopes. In the distance, coyote pups played at a den entrance under watchful adult supervision. Ghost's pack, recovering slowly from Voss's systematic predation. "You didn't tell them everything," Claire observed, studying Ethan's expression. He shook his head slowly. Some things about Ghost, about what happened in that valley, they wouldn't understand. Both carried memories science couldn't explain. How Ghost had held Voss immobile until rangers arrived. How the Coyote had led rescuers to Ethan and Claire despite worsening conditions. How the Alpha had orchestrated not just survival, but justice across species boundaries. The trafficking evidence had proven sufficient without exploring uncomfortable questions about animal intelligence and intention. Some truths remained between survivors, human and otherwise. Movement drew their attention. Ghost himself, materializing from shadows at the forest edge. The silver-tipped tail caught sunlight as the Coyote observed them from safe distance. "He's been taking the carrion you left," Claire noted, checking trail camera images on her tablet. "No livestock predation since you started the program." Ethan nodded, unsurprised. He understands boundaries now that we're respecting his. Ghost watched them steadily, amber eyes reflecting neither fear nor aggression, merely awareness across species divide. The Coyote turned deliberately, silver tail flashing like signal before disappearing into undergrowth. "He won't be trapped again," Ethan said with certainty. "Neither will we," Claire replied, understanding deeper implications. They stood together at wilderness boundary, transformed by shared survival. The hunter who'd abandoned pursuit. The researcher who'd transcended observation. Between them, understanding crystallized through blood and snow. Predator and prey existed in balance only through mutual respect. Far across the valley, Ghost's howl rose in evening air. Not challenge or territory claim, but acknowledgement. The ancient voice of wilderness, offering neither sentiment nor concession, merely recognition of new alliance across evolutionary boundaries. Claire's research would document quantifiable changes in predator-human dynamics. Ethan's testimony would reshape wildlife management practices across 3 states. But neither science nor policy captured the fundamental truth they carried from that storm-wrapped valley. Sometimes the hunter becomes witness. Sometimes the observer becomes participant. Sometimes the wilderness itself renders judgment through tooth and claw. And occasionally, across species divides carved by millennia of evolution, understanding emerges from shared survival against common threat, tentative alliance between human intelligence and wild wisdom, each recognizing the other across the eternal boundary between civilization and wilderness.